Greetings my lovelies, and thank you for stopping by the circle today. As you can see, I clearly do not have my normal background up. There is no green screen. This is actually my office. I can interact with this. It's all cool and dandy. And you might be wondering, why? Well, here's the reason why. This video is a vlog of me outlining book 2 because we've been working super mega awesomely hard on the whole writing process videos, and I thought it would be nice to sort of see somewhat of my planning, outlining crap in action. So, let's roll right on to it. So if you're new to this channel and have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about writing process, please click the little card thingy up here wherever it shall appear. And you can go through that whole thing, and it's basically where I am walking you guys through the writing process from having an idea, developing it, developing your characters, outlining, planning, pantsing, how to deal with burnout and stress, how to set goals, all that fun jazz. But I am not ready to start talking about writing because that is not where my brain is at. My brain is still in planning phase for book 2 of A Tale of Blades and Darkness. So while I was writing the Serpent's Coils, I realized that I needed to cut it off earlier than what I intended. So that sort of put me in a little bit of a conundrum for book 2. So that means that what I originally planned for book 2 is no longer going to work because I still have to add those things that I originally cut out of the first book into it because they are kind of crucial plot points. But I felt like the first book needed to be more of a gentle kick in the ass for my character to sort of move forward with her life. So anyways, so what we're going to do today is this is going to be a vlog of me going through my outlining process. I have sort of shifted away from like the semi-traditional outline because that is really taking me too long to do, and it's essentially like I'm writing my novel 6 times. Which is not a bad thing, but I can easily keep track of everything this way and this way, so they allow me a little bit more organic freedom to write. However, unfortunately, the only way that I can take these two with me when I go to work in other places would be to have them on my phone. So there's a plus and a downside to kind of everything, but whatever tickles your fancy. What you're going to see me do is you're going to see me bouncing back and forth between this sheet, which is where I'm going to write kind of like scenes for like the save the cat type of thing. Like, okay, I need to make sure I have my opening scene and my theme and my setups and so on and so forth. And then over here is sort of like a rough chapter outline type of thing, if that makes any sense. I got the idea to do this from K-tastic, who I will link down below, because like this method here coupled with Save the Cat has fundamentally changed how I do my outlining, and I realized that I did not need to do it so involved, that I could do it a little bit easier and have a generalized idea, and it's so much faster. And as I am mostly an organic writer, this is enough to keep my ass on track, but not so much where I feel like I'm trapped within a certain thing. And then with the scenes, there are certain things that I want to have happen that I can continue to remember via sticky notes. So, hey, perfect example of blending multiple styles to suit your needs. So as you'll see me kind of working, you'll see a lot of the back of my head or whatever, because unfortunately, you know, this is there. I will try to remember to stop and sort of talk about things to explain my process. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on Act 1. And I will probably break up somewhere just before the catalyst. So let me back this camera up and get going. Alrighty, so as you can see, I have finished with my Act 1 all the way up to Chapter 9. And these are just kind of like the main ideas of each of my chapters. Like, if nothing else fails, I need to make sure I cover the things on this board. Now, over here where I have the things broken up for like the Save the Cat type of scenarios, I have my opening scene, my theme, and then a couple other little scenes that I want to include as part of my setup for this new world. I have my catalyst, which is kind of complex a little bit, and then my debate, which is basically boils down to a question. Because every time you have a catalyst, your character has to figure out what the fuck they're gonna do next. So this has sort of kind of happened, largely fed into by some of the issues from the setup, which is how it's supposed to be. And then now they have to figure out what they're gonna do next. So far, I'm fairly happy with kind of how everything is going. Well, everything so far is leftovers from book 1. So initially they were gonna do these things, and however, what was in book 2? At some point something had changed.
A few moments later.
And now that I'm sitting here and thinking about it, book 1 has ended up being split into two separate books entirely. Oh well, c'est la vie, that's life. That just means more books in the series. So anywho's, now all of this is fluid, it's flexible. I can change any of these points later, and I can change any of these scenes later on. This is just a general idea as to what I'm going to do in this Act 1. Now Act 2 is a little bit different because technically there are 2 parts to Act 2. So what you're gonna have is you're gonna have things that carry over from Act 1, but then you're gonna start introducing new things. So this is gonna be new characters, new issues, kind of like a whole new setup all over again. Like, this is where like a lot of the adventure things happen. This is where things get really gnarly. We're encroaching like the midpoint somewhere around in this region, and this is also a time for like a mini climax. I like to put mini climaxes rough in every single act of my book. They're not always a catalyst, but kind of think of them like roller coasters. Like in Act 1 we have something that happens, not quite the catalyst because that's what moves into Act 2, but sometimes they're like small personal bits of growth. And when I say like climaxes, I don't mean like action. Just sort of like really crucial stories, if that makes any sense. Anyways, on to outlining part 2. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure what happened because I looked back and the camera was blank, so I don't really quite know where we're at. But since I happened to check, this is a pretty good time to talk about where I'm at so far. Alright, so now we're kind of at the point to where you really have to start making some choices as a writer, because what is happening in the Save the Cat is not necessarily what's happening on my board. And let me sort of explain that a little bit. In Act 2 of Save the Cat, you know, when you're introduced to your B story and you have your fun and games and you reach your midpoint, you also have the part where the bad guys close in, all is lost, and then the dark night of the soul. This part really isn't happening in Act 2 for me. A lot of it is all of this up here because I have some serious bombs that are being dropped. Now my midpoint is roughly like the same as what I initially was thinking about, and there are some plot points for the story as series as a whole, as well as some type of character development, those types of things. And then that's gonna move us into our final act. Any method that you find for outlining story structure, all that fun crap, is not gonna be perfect. Because not everything needs to happen. Like with the hero's journey, there are so many different variations of that you don't necessarily have to use them all. Save the Cat, same thing. The plot embryo circles, they don't always line up the way that you want them to. You can find examples of them, but when you're writing it, it doesn't always work. I have my midpoint, and we are starting to deal with some type of big bombs that really need to be dropped before we move into our final act, which kind of has a lot of crap, some exposition, and a action climaxy type event. So let me go ahead and kind of roll on with that so I can kind of finish. You'll see me thinking a lot more because I'm worrying more about how things are broken up, how does that correlate with the following books, what do I need to go ahead and introduce now that may come into play later. Are there characters that I kind of need to introduce now that will definitely come into play in the later? And so on and so forth. So, let's get going. Alrighty, so as you can see, I have everything filled up here now. I did move some stuff over. I was actually able to apply the Save the Cat style thing to my story. I realized that I was kind of forgetting about something, because this one's going to be a dual storyline, and there's not enough and there's not enough of it, so I had to reintroduce that. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it. I might fluctuate a couple of things, especially like with these last 3 chapters. Some of it can all be converged into 1 or 2, it just kind of depends. But those are like the last 3 main points that I kind of want to keep on going. I have pretty much all my scenes done. If you've noticed, like, I've kind of had to pause every now and again to tape these things, because it's an old sticky notes that I have, and the adhesive is not quite as good as it used to be. So I'll probably tape most of these back down again. And yeah, there we go. Book 2 is all roughly outlined. I can now begin writing. Because I hate planning. I would much rather be writing than planning, and so this, I will see how this works out. Hopefully it'll work a lot better for me than what I've been using in the past. It's enough of an outline that I have an idea of what I'm doing, but yet I am still free and organic enough to just fucking go. So that is all that I have for you guys today. And again, if you've missed anything because my camera shut off on me at some given point in time, I do apologize. But trust me, you really didn't miss much. So, before I skedaddle on to get myself situated and to finalize the last few things here and there, please do not forget that the Serpent's Coils is out and about in the world right now. You can buy it pretty much anywhere that you normally buy your books. Just look it up. And if you have read it, please don't forget to review it. I don't care if you do it on Amazon or Goodreads, or just, even if you just give it stars. Like, hey, do what you do. But hey, share the love. So that is all that I have time for today, because now I'm like super mega charged to get the ball rolling on book 2. And I will see you all in the month of June. Bye.